A legacy shrouded in shadows. Trump's troubling relationship with transparency. Donald Trump's presidency was marked by a blatant disregard for transparency and accountability. This disregard deeply troubled those committed to democratic ideals. From his refusal to release his tax returns to his constant barrage of misleading statements, Trump consistently prioritized secrecy and self-preservation over public accountability. This pattern of behavior undermined trust in government. It also eroded the very foundation of truth and integrity that are essential for a functioning democracy. Trump's actions went beyond mere political maneuvering. They represented a fundamental assault on the principles of open government. His administration was characterized by a culture of secrecy. This secrecy made it difficult for the public and the press to hold him accountable. Trump's disdain for transparency extended to his dealings with government agencies. He frequently attacked institutions like the FBI and the intelligence community when their findings contradicted his narrative. This assault on democratic norms left a lasting scar on American politics. It continues to fuel distrust and division. The consequences of Trump's lack of transparency are far-reaching. They extend beyond his presidency. His actions set a dangerous precedent for future leaders. This precedent threatens to further erode public trust and weaken democratic institutions. The need for transparency in government is not a partisan issue. It is a fundamental principle of a healthy democracy. Citizens have a right to know how their government operates. They also have the right to hold their leaders accountable. Trump's presidency serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked secrecy and the importance of safeguarding transparency and accountability. The tax return saga, a breach of trust and democratic norms. Donald Trump's refusal to release his tax returns was a significant departure from decades of presidential precedent. This refusal raised serious questions about his commitment to transparency and ethical conduct. Every president since Richard Nixon had voluntarily released their tax returns. This act served as a gesture of good faith and allowed the public to assess potential conflicts of interest. Trump shattered this norm. He offered a series of flimsy excuses for his refusal. Trump claimed he was under audit by the Internal Revenue Service. However, an IRS audit does not preclude an individual from releasing their own tax information.
This claim was widely seen as a delay tactic. It fueled suspicions that Trump was hiding something in his financial dealings. The public had a right to know whether Trump's business interests influenced his decision-making as president. Without access to his tax returns, it was impossible to determine if he was using the presidency for personal gain. Trump's refusal to release his returns eroded public trust. It also cast a shadow over his entire presidency. This lack of transparency had real-world consequences. It hampered congressional oversight efforts. It also prevented journalists from fully investigating Trump's financial dealings. The tax return saga became emblematic of Trump's broader disregard for ethical norms and his willingness to operate in secrecy. It served as a stark reminder of the importance of holding elected officials accountable for their actions.
A pattern of deception, misleading statements, and the erosion of truth. Donald Trump's presidency was characterized by a constant stream of false and misleading statements. Fact-checking organizations documented thousands of instances of Trump making claims that were demonstrably false. These falsehoods covered a wide range of topics. These topics included everything from the size of his inauguration crowd to the severity of the COVID-19 pandemic. Trump's repeated distortions of the truth had a corrosive effect on public discourse. They eroded trust in traditional sources of information. They also contributed to the spread of misinformation and disinformation.
His supporters often defended his false statements by claiming that he was simply telling it like it is. Others argued that the media was biased against him and that his lies were inconsequential. However, Trump's misleading statements had real-world consequences. They undermined public health efforts during a global pandemic. They sowed distrust in democratic institutions. They also damaged America's standing on the world stage. Trump's assault on truth was not just about individual lies. It was a deliberate strategy to undermine the very idea of objective reality. By constantly questioning facts and promoting conspiracy theories, Trump created an environment where his supporters felt justified in dismissing any information that challenged their worldview. This erosion of shared reality poses a significant threat to democracy. It makes it difficult to have rational conversations about important issues. It also makes it easier for authoritarian leaders to manipulate the public.
Undermining the pillars of justice, the Mueller investigation and obstruction of justice. Donald Trump's response to the Mueller investigation was a masterclass in obstruction of justice. From the moment Special Counsel Robert Mueller was appointed, Trump publicly attacked the investigation as a witch hunt and a hoax. He repeatedly pressured then-Attorney General Jeff Sessions to fire Mueller. He also attempted to interfere with the investigation in other ways. Trump's actions were a clear attempt to obstruct justice. They raised serious questions about whether he was attempting to cover up wrongdoing. While the Mueller report did not conclude that Trump had committed a crime, it also did not exonerate him. The report documented 10 instances of potential obstruction of justice. It left it to Congress to determine whether to pursue impeachment.
Trump's attacks on the Mueller investigation had a damaging effect on the rule of law. They undermined public trust in the justice system. They also set a dangerous precedent for future presidents who may be tempted to use their power to shield themselves from scrutiny. The Mueller investigation was a pivotal moment in Trump's presidency. It exposed the fragility of democratic norms and the willingness of a president to abuse his power to protect himself. Trump's efforts to obstruct justice were a direct assault on the rule of law and a betrayal of his oath of office. His actions serve as a cautionary tale about the importance of an independent judiciary and the need to hold those in power accountable.
The administration's response to COVID-19 has been, well, controversial, to say the least. The spread of misinformation and mixed messages really cost lives.
The impact of misinformation during the pandemic cannot be overstated. From downplaying the severity of the virus to promoting unproven treatments, the consequences have been dire.
Throughout his presidency, Trump made numerous attempts to dismantle the Affordable Care Act. These efforts created a lot of uncertainty for millions of Americans relying on the ACA for their healthcare.
The repeated challenges to the ACA put essential health protections at risk, especially for those with pre-existing conditions. The stakes were incredibly high, affecting the health and well-being of countless individuals.
The Trump administration's stance on climate change was, frankly, alarming. The rollback of environmental protections set back years of progress in combating climate change.
Ignoring scientific consensus and prioritizing short-term economic gains over long-term environmental health has had significant repercussions. The rollback of policies designed to protect our planet has left a lasting impact.
Throughout Trump's presidency, his rhetoric often sparked intense debates and, well, deepened existing divides within American society.
From his use of social media to his speeches at rallies, Trump's words had a significant impact on the national conversation.
Many argue that his language, emboldened certain groups while alienating others, contributing to a climate of heightened social polarization.
This rise in polarization has had lasting effects, influencing not only political discourse, but also personal relationships and community dynamics across the country.
It's clear that the divisive rhetoric played a role in shaping the current landscape of American politics, and, well, its repercussions are still being felt today.
The response from the Trump administration to social justice movements has been, well, controversial to say the least. Many activists feel that his policies and rhetoric have often undermined the fight for equality.
Trump's stance on social justice issues has sparked widespread debate. His critics argue that his actions have exacerbated tensions, while his supporters claim he is upholding law and order.
The immigration policies under Trump were, frankly, marked by a level of cruelty and chaos that we hadn't seen in recent history. Family separations, the travel ban, and the overall harsh stance on immigration left many in distress.
These policies have been a focal point of criticism. The administration's approach to immigration has been seen as a defining aspect of Trump's presidency. drawing both staunch support and vehement opposition. Throughout his tenure, there were numerous calls for transparency and ethical leadership. Critics pointed to conflicts of interest and a lack of accountability as major concerns. The need for open and honest governance became a recurring theme during Trump's time in office. This concludes our exploration of Donald Trump's presidency. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the complexities and controversies of his time in office. Until next time, take care.